I know what you're thinking. That pimple looks hideous. I'm really self-conscious about it. Stop making fun of me, okay? Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. A juicy one for you here today, as I asked you on X and on YouTube post, give me some of your horror hot takes. And let me tell you, you guys didn't hold back. There are some serious hot takes in here. I'm gonna go through, share some with you, respond to some of them. Maybe it'll get heated, all right? Maybe I can't be friends with you anymore after this. We'll see what happens. But no matter what, all jokes here, okay? You know, people can have their preferences. People can have opinions on movies. If we didn't have preferences, there wouldn't be menus at restaurants, right? That's what this is all about. If you like something and I don't, or I like something and you don't, that's fine, who cares, okay? This is just for fun, so let's have a good time. Right at the top, got this take twice. Freddy vs. Jason is the best movie for both series. Having the most iconic horror movie killers face off against each other is an amazing idea. It has great characters, kills, and an incredible final act. I'm a Freddy vs. Jason fan, no doubt about it. It was one of the first horror movies. I think it is the first horror movie I saw in theaters when I was 7 years old. I forced my brother to take me, and he tried to convince me to go see X-Men instead. And I said, no, we're going to see Freddy vs. Jason. I need this. So we did, and I've always loved that movie. I had a soft spot for it. But even then, when I was just a kid, I was still upset that they replaced Kane Hodder for really no other reason than either he was too small or they didn't want to work with him or what. It's weird. We still go unanswered to this day about what really happened with that situation. But we always wanted to see Kane Hodder versus Robert Englund, and we didn't get that. But putting that to the side, the movie is a good time. It's got some serious flaws. I think the writing is a bit of a mess. I think Freddy only having one kill is a bit of a mess. I don't think Laurie is often people's favorite final girl, but I don't really mind her. I don't mind all that. I think the last battle is great. It's one of my least favorite. It might be my least favorite look overall for Jason ever. I just not a big fan. I'm not a big jacket guy, and of all the jacket looks we got of Jason, that one's by far the worst. He's just very baggy, and it doesn't look good. I don't like the Frankenstein movements either, especially early on in that movie. You know, I don't blame Ken Kersinger for that either. I think that's the way he was directed to move. I don't like it. When he starts speeding up at the end in the final battle and he's like running Freddy down the windows and whatnot, then it's cool. Then he becomes a badass. But he's just kind of a little dopey, a little too much of a soft mama's boy in Versus. And the one thing I really hate, and I'm sure a lot of you agree with this, I hate the fact that Jason's afraid of water, that's his weakness in Versus. He's never been afraid of water. He's gotten several kills in the water. He's happily walked into the water. He's been in rain before. I mean, damn, he swims across the ocean in Jason Takes Manhattan. He's just never been afraid of water. So for that to be his weakness in Versus is just kind of weird, and it feels like a big oversight by people who don't really like the franchise enough. And Ronnie Yu, although he didn't write it, Ronnie Yu is on record saying he only had seen the first Nightmare and the first Friday leading into making that movie. So I think that's my issues with it. Now, as for these hot takes here, I think people liking the movie isn't a problem. Saying it's the best in both franchises is kind of crazy, though, because things like Dream Warriors exist, and the original Nightmare is a fantastic film. I guess you could make a case in Friday the 13th. There's not exactly that one movie that is truly, you know, groundbreaking in that franchise, but still overlooking part 4, part 6, part 3, part 2. I don't know about that, but there are hotter takes in this. This isn't that bad. Black Christmas is the greatest horror film of all time, better than Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, etc. I actually don't think this is that hot of a take either. I think Black Christmas is an extremely underrated film. It truly is the start of the slasher genre. It took that formula and made it work, and Halloween arguably just perfected it and launched it into the mainstream media. But Black Christmas, that's a special movie. It's a very cool film, some cool kills in there, using the killer POV. The only thing you're really missing there slasher-wise is that it's not a mass killer, but Black Christmas is great. Again, super underrated. I wouldn't call it the greatest horror film of all time by any means, but it is got to be the most slept-on slasher film out there, really. Halloween 3 is one of the best in the series. Nothing touches the original, but it's better than all of the others. This, even in today's world, this is still a hot take. I actually kind of agree with it though. Halloween 3, even now, is severely underrated. It was hated for a long time, but it's a super original. It's really a perfect Halloween themed movie. It fits right in with things like Trick or Treat and the original Halloween. The reason it doesn't work is because they already made Halloween 2 and they made a sequel with Michael Myers and then went on and be like, okay, now we're gonna go ahead and switch it up and just have a different Halloween anthology approach every year, which would be really cool. I mean, Michael, he's the GOAT, right? And I'm a sucker for all those sequels, but Halloween 3 is a very cool film and is absolutely underrated. If you just take off the Halloween 3 title, I think it would be loved by horror fans. Corey Cunningham is top 5 best written character in the Halloween franchise, far better actor than a lot of fan favorites in H4 and H6. I feel the heat typing this out. Well, Rowan Campbell is a great actor. I don't have any issues with that. I think Corey Cunningham is, just a bit of a lackluster character. The reason it feels like it works, and it feels like Corey's doing something, is that it's basically just Christine, but in the mix of what is the Halloween 2018 trilogy, that story is extremely lackluster. Laurie and her story doesn't really make any sense. It's like her personalities throughout the franchise or throughout that trilogy are backwards. It's like Halloween Ends Laurie should have been Halloween 2018 Laurie. And Halloween 2018 Laurie should have been Halloween Kills Laurie. And then Halloween Kills Laurie should have been Halloween Ends Laurie. It's really weird. It's weird that she's just over everything. So that's really not the issue. I think Corey Cunningham is a solid character. He's just randomly introduced in the midst of a trilogy and throws away the path we were headed on with it. So it's not Rowan's fault. He's really not that bad of a character. And Rowan is a great actor. It's just that film in and of itself is lackluster. However, saying Corey Cunningham is a better character than fan favorites in H4 and H6, you're talking about Daniel Harris, you're talking about Jamie Lloyd, you're talking about Ellie Cornell, Rachel Carruthers, and I don't think that's the case. Halloween 6, on the other hand, if we're talking like Paul Rudd, it's not like Tommy Doyle in Halloween 6 is all that great of a character. It's okay, I guess. So sure, if you want to make a case for that, then I think that's fair. Insidious was one of the last genuinely scary horror movies in modern era. I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. I think The Conjuring is just as scary. Hereditary is just as scary. There are several independent and foreign films that I think are just as scary. What I do think about Insidious is that it is probably the scariest PG-13 horror film of all time. I think that's fair. But there's a lot of freaky things that have come out in the last, it's been 15 years now since Insidious came out. There's been a lot of scary stuff that's come out since then that probably surpasses Insidious. But Insidious, scariest PG-13 horror film ever, certainly a case to be made for that. The 2003 TCM remake is much better than the original, and it is the best of the franchise overall. You're going to hear this one a lot. It's one that gets said on YouTube and on X a lot. I very much disagree, but I do like the remake. I think the 2003 remake is a better slasher film. It fits the slasher formula more. You have Leatherface being a badass. He looks cool. You have, of course, Sheriff Hoyt is a great character, really carries that film. You get Jessica Biel in there and just some likable characters. But what the 2003 remake does, I think, is so far away from what the original is that one, Leatherface is not acting on fear and like primal instinct. He's just kind of just being a badass all the time. He's not, other than one scene, he's not Leatherface anymore. He's just a brute slasher icon. In the original, he's scared. He's fighting for his family. He's protecting his family. He's trying to feed his family. And the remake is just not grounded in a realistic world at all. Even Sheriff Hoyt and becoming, stealing the cop outfit, all of that, none of that really makes sense. The whole town kind of being on their side, it's weird. In the original, it's just a random family out in the middle of nowhere, Texas, that is crazy and eat people. And you stumble upon them and you're screwed. And that's just kind of that, grounded in a very realistic world. and that makes it scary. It's a very special movie, and I think the remake just kind of forgot what the original was. You know, it's not a slasher film. It's a grindhouse film, and that's not really there. Although very gross, very wet film. There's a lot of great things about it. That's why I like it, but it's not the same. They're not on the same level. It's just, but if you prefer slasher films, then yeah, like that's the better slasher film because the original's not a slasher film at all, really. Eli Roth's Cabin Fever is arguably one of the most underrated horror films ever. A perfect mix of horror, everything, terror, shock horror, comedy, drama. It's literally a supreme pizza when it comes to filmmaking. I suppose this is a hot take, but it's one that I heavily agree with. I think Cabin Fever is extremely underrated. It's a great film. I wouldn't call it one of the best horror films ever, but I think that's a special film. It's arguably Eli Roth's best. I would vote Thanksgiving because I love Thanksgiving, but Cabin Fever is a special film, and it is really gruesome, very gross film. Now the sequel, that movie sucks. We didn't talk about that one, but Eli Roth's Cabin Fever is a very cool film, and I've always liked it ever since I was a kid, so I'm with you on this one. It is underrated. John Shepard is the best Tommy Jarvis. I find this one funny just because I agree, and I always thought that was a hot take that I had. Yeah, John Shepard I think is great. I love that take on Tommy Jarvis, and I think he plays it extremely well. I know Tom Matthews is just kind of become the face of that character because part 6 is so loved and part 5 is not really. People have come around to it over the years, but yeah, I've always loved that Tommy Jarvis. Quiet, doesn't say much, clearly living with some serious PTSD, and kind of a badass at the same time. I've always liked him, and now that I've met John Shepard, I like him even more. What a cool guy. Super cool dude. So John Shepard is best Tommy Jarvis. I'm not against it. I'm with you. But of course, every Tommy has been very good in my opinion. You kicked off with Corey Feldman at the peak of his career, really, and then Tom Matthews has always been a fan favorite. So Rob Zombie is not a horrible director. For me, I've only enjoyed 2 of Rob's films ever, and that's House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects. Everything else I can toss to the side. Every time I rewatch Rob Zombie's Halloween, I like it less. There are some redeemable qualities about both Halloween and Halloween 2, but I really just, it doesn't work for me. I think it's actually kind of insulting to the original and John Carpenter's original image. And yeah, I like Scout Taylor Compton. I like Tyler Mane. I like some of the things it did. Some of the kills are cool, but it really doesn't work for me. And Rob Zombie's 2 is even a bigger mess. I mean, nothing about that makes sense. But then you think it's like, okay, maybe it's because he is constantly not being able to share his own vision. He's getting producers over his head. But then you get things like The Munsters, and The Munsters was fucking bad. I don't know. I'm not particularly a fan. I don't actually think it's Rob Zombie as a director that I don't like. I think it's Rob Zombie as a writer. I think almost every character he ever writes is exactly the same, and I struggle to buy into that. I think his directing approach would be fine. Take him into the world of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, have someone else write it, have him direct a TCM film. I think that could be a special formula. But man, a lot of the stuff that Rob has made, I really struggle to get through. And that sucks because when he does do well, he does extremely well. I think The Devil's Rejects is a very special movie, but he's hit rock bottom for me a few times. Paranormal Activity is boring and not worth the hype it got. You'll hear this about pretty much any found footage film ever. Sometimes it works on people, sometimes it doesn't. I think analog horror in general has that vibe. I mean, look at Skinamarink. Some people love it. Scared the shit out of them. Really made them feel that suspense the whole time, edge of your seat. But some people hated it, couldn't finish it. Miserable experience to watch. That's just kind of what VHS horror, analog horror, found footage horror does. The first time I watched Paranormal Activity, I really enjoyed it. I watched it by myself. I was young. I think when the movie came out in 2006, I was young, so I'm only like 10 years old, watching it in the dark by myself. I got some good suspenseful edge of seat moments. I had a good time with it. Now, I think a lot of the sequels are complete dog water, but yeah, Paranormal Activity probably overhyped. Probably ended up making a little too much money based on what it is, and getting like 6 sequels is crazy. But I don't mind the first one. I don't really mind the second or third either. Yeah, it falls off pretty hard after that. I don't know. It is definitely a little overhyped, at least based on how much money it made in the franchise that it created. So yeah, that's fair. I'm going to get a lot of heat for this one, but here we go. I do not like Halloween H2O at all. It is one of my least favorite Halloween movies. I hate the Myers portrayal. No offense to the actor. I'm offended for him. The mask looks stupid. Myers is not intimidating or scary at all. The kills are lame. Characters are forgettable except for Laurie. And the movie is just boring until the last like 10 minutes. I am a Halloween H2 lover. Sorry, I think 1, 2, H2O is such a great trilogy. I could watch those movies on loop as a single film. Love it. I love Josh Hartnett, so that also is adding to it. I think the portrayal of Laurie and the way she's written is unbelievably better than Halloween 2018. I hate the way they took Laurie in Halloween 2018. While that movie's fun and I enjoy it, the whole I'm going to build a fortress, I want him to escape, my PTSD is working in weird ways, I'm going to torture my daughter and make sure she knows how to shoot and build a trap with her and all this shit. I don't like that. I think Laurie getting away, getting the hell out of Haddonfield and, ultimately becoming an alcoholic, successful, but constantly dealing with that PTSD. I like that. I feel like that is a much more realistic approach to Laurie. So I really appreciate that. As a Scream fan, I'm a sucker for the Kevin Williamson vibes. The late 90s film, all of them. Every single Scream ripoff, that vibe, I like them all. I hate myself every day because of it, but that's just the truth. I also think it has some solid kills. I mean, like with the body hanging from the light, with the leg cut off. I mean, that's a pretty suspenseful scene leading up to that as well with the dumbwaiter chase. There's some good moments in there. I think the final battle of Laurie and Michael, again, way better than what we see in like Halloween Ends. That erotic final scene between them, no, it's not even close to the last chase. The entire last third of Halloween H2O is them facing off. That's awesome. I really like that about it. Now, H2O, the mask, they are pretty stupid. They should have kept John Buechler's mask, no doubt about it, the opening scene mask. I don't know why they decided to throw that out, but it was worse. I mean, that first mask was brutal. Still in there a couple times. The CGI mask, there's that too. I also think Chris Duran is extremely underrated as a Michael. I don't know why people don't like him. I thought he has great movements. He did a good job. I don't know. I don't really get the hate for H2O because I don't really think this is all that much of a hot take. It feels like today it's a hot take to like the movie and to support it the way I do. So maybe I have the hot take. I don't get it. I see a lot of hate for it, especially lately. And that hurts my feelings because I love Halloween H2O. Hereditary is probably one of the most overhyped mid-horror films I've ever seen. There's better psychological horror films out there. I think there are better psychological horror films out there, but Hereditary, now I've seen this take a lot more. I think it's actually underrated. I think Hereditary is a very special film. It's what original horror can look like. And it sucks that a lot of stuff similar to Hereditary don't get the praise they deserve. Hereditary, very legitimately scary film in my opinion. And I think a lot of it comes down to when you watch it. Because if you were going in hearing that, what I just said, you'd be expecting something crazy, and you don't get that, and then you're disappointed, and you call it mid. I think you went into that movie blind. Man, it really delivered when I watched it for sure. So, yeah, I get it. I hear people saying that a lot, but I think Hereditary is a special film. Halloween 4 is the most overrated film in the franchise. The mask design is awful, the shoulder pads are laughable, and the plot lacks substance. Not to mention the scene where the shape magically climbs up from the bottom of the truck is absurd as hell. The opening credit sequence, Daniel Harris's performance and chemistry with Ellie Cornell are the only real highlights of the movie. The David Gordon Green trilogy all clear this movie by a country mile. I didn't think your take was all that hot until you said the David Gordon Green trilogy clear Halloween 4 by a country mile. I don't think any of them are even really close. Halloween 2018, I guess you can make a case for. I think Halloween Kills is a really bad movie. Kills are fun. It's entertaining. You want to get drunk with your buddies and watch people get shit on for an hour and a half. I think that's fun, but plot-wise, there is no plot. The only plot in Halloween Kills is that Michael wants to go home. The first part of the movie is him figuring out where home is. Second movie is him finding home. Third part is him defending his home. That is basically the entire movie, and that's the only consistent plot throughout. So, yeah, no. And Halloween Ends, good grief. Like, it's a fun horror film. It's a really bad Halloween film. Halloween 4, I think it's the worst mask in the franchise. I've been very vocal about that. I think it holds the film back a lot. Michael just doesn't look good, and the shoulder pads, I agree. Also, the hockey pads, they suck. Makes him look dumb. And George Wilbur's a pretty big guy. Totally unnecessary to do that. But yeah, the truck at the end, like you mentioned as well. Yeah, there are certainly some weird things going on in there, but I think it's probably arguably the best delivery of characters that we've seen in the entire franchise. Like you said, Daniel Harris as Jamie Lloyd, Ellie Cornell as Rachel Carruthers. Their chemistry, their performances, fantastic, extremely likable characters that you did not want to see die. And of course, the return of Dr. Loomis with Donald Pleasance. He's great in there as well. So you see, there's a lot of great things about Halloween 4 that make it special. They really caught the atmosphere of Illinois in the fall, and that was cool. Yeah, I think it is up at the top of the Halloween franchise, and I don't even think it's close to being passed by David Gordon Green's films. That trilogy is in its own category. It's doing its own thing over there. Halloween 4 considered the top of the franchise ranking. Nightmare on Elm Street 2010 is better than Halloween Ends and Kills. I don't know if that's maybe. Okay, now it's on to X. Let's see what some of these hot takes are. I'm sure they're going to be brutal. Happy Death Day is the most boring horror film ever. Simply awful. Damn. You didn't have to say it like that. I love Happy Death Day. I love those self-aware horror comedies like that. That's a cool film. I don't get how you call it boring. I mean, if you don't like that style of filmmaking, sure, but boring? Come on, man. Happy Death Day is great. I patiently await Happy Death Day 3. Friday the 13th Part 4 is overrated. Oh. No. That's just not true. That one's just wrong, I don't tell you. But he goes on. Psychological horror is either too boring, too confusing, or too easy to figure it out. I don't really understand Cody every time he makes this take. I've heard him say that several times. He's hurting my feelings, but psychological horror is great. I mean, it's basically the mystery component of it and actually having to think. I love to shut my brain off and watch a good slasher movie, don't get me wrong. But psychological horror, that's where you can really start playing with your audience and have a good time. I don't know. That's an interesting take to me. The Blair Witch was never scary. It was incredibly boring and pointless. Its marketing was all it had. Again, this is do you like found footage? Do you like analog horror? If the answer is no, you probably don't like Blair Witch. I do like Blair Witch. The marketing behind it, not only was it good, it was brilliant. It was genius. Like, they completely fooled the world and made a bunch of money as a result. I don't think that's the only thing it has going for it, though. I think there's some really cool suspenseful moments in there. It just depends on when and where you watch it. Like I said, if you go into Blair Witch knowing its legacy and how it is the, highest grossing independent horror film of all time, yeah, like, you're probably gonna be like, oh, this is the movie that did that. But I think going in blind to something like that, it's a good time. And Blair Witch, it's starting to get to the point these days where it's going to be underrated. What's going on here? But analog horror, found footage horror, I don't like a lot of them, but I certainly have a lot of respect for things like Blair Witch and what they did to change filmmaking, really, and open a door to a lot of independent filmmakers. Simone decided to stack up some hot takes here. These feel like targeted attacks, to be honest. Jason Goes to Hell design over Part 7, just no. Like, they're not even close. Jason Goes to Hell look is, again, one of the worst in the franchise. I still think Versus is worse. Just too simple. Just like the gray, blue-looking pant shirt, that's it. And then the bulging bubble brain head. I don't really like it. I still like the hockey mask, but that's about it. The game took it, kind of thinned it out a little bit, tightened it up, and made Jason like jacked as hell. Which is, it's funny because he's jacked and Jason Goes to Hell too. It's Kane Hodder, but the clothes are too baggy on him. When in the game, it's all tight and slick on him, and I think it makes that look way better. But Part 7 is still by far, I mean, it is way better than Jason Goes to Hell. They're not even close. You might be the only person to actually think that, to be honest with you. That is definitely a hot take. Halloween 6 is underrated. Hey, it's right in the middle of the franchise for me. It's probably the best movie for actually capturing the feel and look consistently throughout the whole movie of Illinois in the fall. So I really appreciate that. It captures the atmosphere extremely well. We got Paul Rudd out of it. You do have some likable characters. They try to make the most out of the Thorn, the cult and whatnot. Some of it works extremely well. I think Michael is genuinely scary in it as well. The mask is great. So I really like the look of Michael in Halloween 6. I think it's the first time he's looked scary since really Halloween 2. But yeah, the Thorn stuff, it's still a mess. Like I never was a big fan of the Thorn cult, and they try to make the most of it, but it's lackluster at best. Scream 3 is the worst. I think a lot of people agree with this. I'm so glad that people have come around lately, it seems, for Scream 3, because I love that movie. Grew up watching it a ton. I think calling it just an outright bad movie is wrong. It's got some things that don't make sense. The voice changer back in the year 2000 doesn't make sense. Roman being the only killer really doesn't make sense. But overall, I think the movie is a really good time, and I love it, and I'm glad it has its following these days. I do still think Scream 4 is the worst in the franchise, but I love that movie too. If it's Scream, I'm in. I'll never sell a man out, all right? We're all a team here. Because honest to God, I could watch Scream 1 through 6 on loop every day of the week and would have zero complaints. So, yeah, Scream 3 may be the worst in the franchise in your opinion, but I would hope you still like it, which I don't think you do. That hurts my feelings. And one more from Simone. Nightmare on Elm Street remake is not the worst Nightmare movie. Dream Child is. I think I actually agree with that. The Nightmare on Elm Street remake, though, it's pretty fucking bad. I mean, it's pretty atrocious. A lot of people have come around to it, especially as of late. I think people that kind of look back on it with a little nostalgia now. It can be a fun watch, but when you actually think about it and just compare it to the original, the CGI, Rooney Mara, although she went on to have an incredible career, on the record said she was trying to get fired while filming Nightmare on Elm Street. It shows. She's awful. I mean, just an extremely unlikable character, carried heavily by Kyle Gallner as Quentin. So I do like Quentin. I think Jackie Earle Haley, you want a hot take, I think he's great. I think Freddy in the remake is fantastic. They really handled that well. Doesn't get any credit because he's not Robert Englund, but Jackie Earle Haley I thought was fantastic, arguably the best part of the movie. Yeah, but then the CGI, you actually start to like Chris as a character, then they kill her off, and then we go to Rooney Mara as Nancy, and you're like, oh, you suck. Yeah, the movie's a mess. It's lackluster. But we also got micro naps, and that's pretty cool. But Dream Child is absolute dog shit. Like, there are very few redeemable qualities about Dream Child. It's by far my least favorite of the franchise. And then probably Freddy's Dead. And then we get to the remake, I think. So there's actually two movies I think are worse than the remake. TCM is a better film series than Halloween. I don't think so. TCM has pretty much missed the mark every time. Yeah, TCM 2 is okay. It's not even close to the original. I actually am one that likes TCM 3 more than most. It's still not that great. Next Generation's awful. Yeah, TCM 3D is awful. 2022 is not great. Leatherface 2016, 2017 is not great. They just, really dropped the ball with that franchise. Keep missing. Of course, the remake and the prequel to the remake, I think those are good. And you could have fun with a lot of those films. But Halloween, although it has some really bad movies, I think has hit the mark a little bit more consistently than TCM has. Evil Dead Rise is a terrible excuse of an Evil Dead movie. All the hype it got was because of Alyssa Sutherland's performance. Take that away, and the movie has nothing but a cringe attempt at creating a new protagonist that copies Ash's lines and whatever the RE boss was. I don't think it's a terrible excuse of an Evil Dead movie. I do think it was a little overhyped, although Alyssa Sutherland's performance carrying the film, I think is fair. I mean, the characters are all relatively likable, but Alyssa Sutherland was so good. And since it is such it's a one location Evil Dead film, very simple, simplistic thing, that having a one performance carry the film is not that crazy of a take. I mean, that's certainly possible. I like Evil Dead Rise. I think it is actually at the bottom of my ranking in the franchise, but that's not really saying much when it comes to the Evil Dead franchise because it's always been good. They really haven't missed the mark. Now, Evil Dead Rise is not even close to the remake, in my opinion, but it was nice to have it come back, and they do some things that are very accurate to the lore that we know from Evil Dead. It's not Ash, but it still felt like Evil Dead, and we'll see what Evil Dead Burns does now. I saw this one come up a few times. Jordan Peele is overrated as a horror director. I do think some of his horror films have been overhyped, for sure. I think Get Out is not. Get Out is legit. That's a very good movie. I like that one. Us is okay. I think actually I would argue that Nope is kind of bad. It was all right. It was decent the first watch. It somehow got significantly worse in the second watch. I don't know. I think it's way too long, but man, is that a beautiful movie. It's some of the best night cinematography I've ever seen. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe overrated just because the amount of hype that every movie he has released has gotten. I mean, it's blown up every time. I think Get Out deserves that. I don't think Us or Nope do, but I still enjoy those movies and I want to see more from Jordan Peele. But I see a lot of people saying he's like the best horror director of our generation, and I don't think that at all. I actually think Mike Flanagan or James Wan or even David Sandberg are more deserving of that award. But Jordan Peele, I mean, he's just getting started, right? He's not even been 10 years. You know, we're just getting warmed up. Friday the 13th, 2009 is the best F-13 movie. I've heard this one more and more lately. Somehow this is becoming less of a hot take every day. I don't agree with that. I think it's like 5th in my ranking. I mean, look, I got a remake mask back here. I'm a big fan of it, no doubt. I think Derek Mears is fantastic. I do think they kind of waste the potential of a true final girl. Daniel Panabaker not being there at the end and having a big moment, I think kind of sucks. And believe it or not, I think they probably went a little too far with the nudity. Yeah, that movie, listen, it's a fun, of course we all like sitting there and you know, watching boobies for 15 minutes straight, but man, it is so close to porn, it's pretty crazy. They went a little far with it. I don't know. But yeah, some great kills in there. Again, Derek Mears is fantastic. I actually like the look of Jason a lot. It's the best jacket look that I think we've seen on Jason. And then getting the sack head in there too is great. So a lot of good things in there, but almost every character in the movie, dog shit. Like they all suck. There's no establishment. It is like the definition of character tropes. And I think that holds it back quite a bit. But Jared Padalecki's in there, so do we really care? Yeah, as long as we get to see Jared, everything's fine. Halloween 2 1981 was better than Halloween 1978 and is the best Halloween movie. I've heard this one a lot too lately. I think that's just wrong. And let me tell you why. Yeah, I think the setting's great. I think Dick Warlock as Michael's great. But what that movie's really missing is any characters to give a shit about. Because we want Laurie. You follow Laurie in the first. You want to follow her in the second. And until about an hour in, you don't do anything with her. She's in a hospital bed, just like Halloween Kills. She's just there for a long time. And then even when she does start getting moving, it takes a while. I do love Halloween 2. And I think the chase scene in the basement of the hospital is one of the best chase scenes in the entire franchise. One of the best chase scenes in slasher films, in my opinion. Very suspenseful. But yeah, not having that character to follow really is a struggle. Dr. Loomis does some heavy lifting. And then on top of all that, this sibling story, it really takes away from how scary the first one was and how random it was, which is why they continue to try to like pull it back, you know, and don't want it to be in Halloween 2018, and you might see that happen again. But 1, 2, H2O, like I said, that's a great trilogy to me, and I could watch it on loop. But Halloween 1, I think, is significantly better. Because Halloween 2 just doesn't have the characters to carry it. They're not there. They literally just don't exist. So I think that holds it back quite a bit. I have heard the argument that it's an overall better slasher movie, and maybe that's the case. Because there are some great kills in there. And that's basically the whole movie is kill to kill to kill. Eventually, he'll find Laurie again. Otherwise, there's not much more to it. And yeah, like take it how you will. Halloween Ends is a completely misunderstood and downright underrated film with some of the best cinematography and acting in the entire franchise. I think the second half of that is true. I don't think it's misunderstood. I think the fact that I understand it is actually why I don't like it. You know, because it is just Christine. It is straight up just Christine, man. And I think if you're kind of an OG Halloween fan, I'm not going to speak for all of you, but I think if you're an OG Halloween fan, it's kind of offensive what they do to Michael in Halloween Ends. Just have him be Corey Cunningham's bitch until the very end of the movie. I don't like that. It was just dumb. And then the problem is they marketed it as this big final battle. Laurie, Michael face off one last time. And it was everywhere. That's how it was promoted. And then they see each other for like 5 minutes of the whole movie, and Michael's barely in it. And then when he is in it, he's being Corey Cunningham's bitch boy. No. I think as a horror movie, it's entertaining because, again, it's just Christine, and Christine's a great movie. But then when it becomes a Halloween movie again, it sucks ass. It's a very bad Halloween movie. But you can make a case that it's a decent horror movie because, again, it's just Christine, man. That's all it is. So, yeah, I don't know. And they baited us hell. I think Halloween Ends, yeah, on record, quote me on this. Halloween Ends is the most clickbait example of a film ever. Marketed in the most clickbaity way they possibly could have. That is that. Modern horror doesn't understand what it means to make a horror film a classic. I actually thoroughly disagree with this one. I used to be like this, okay? Like, we kind of get stuck with nostalgia. Like, what I had when I was a kid, that's what the best looks like. And man, really, some of the best original horror ever has come out in the last 15 to 20 years. People willing to experiment with things, do things differently, go over the top. It's never been a better time for an independent creator to come into this space and make something original. And I think that is very cool. And you've gotten some really cool things out of it, while we're also making a return to the classic golden era of slasher films and seeing things like Halloween come back and Scream come back and I Know It's Last Summer come back and Friday the 13th is bound to come back and Nightmare on Elm Street's bound to come back and Chucky's back. And it's just constantly bringing back all these old IPs that we grew up with and loved, while also getting some of the most original horror films ever. So I think it's a good time to be a horror fan. And I certainly think when we look back in 30 years, we'll call a lot of those films classics too. I think The Shining is a pile of shit and extremely unfaithful to the book. Nicholson and Duvall's performances are amazing though. Okay, it kind of is unfaithful to the book. So if you've read the book and then you watch the movie, that might be disappointing. But I think that movie's fantastic. I think it remains one of the scarier films ever and is a classic for a reason, okay? It's pristine stuff. I'm a big fan of The Shining, and yeah, like you said, Nicholson and Duvall's performances, they take it to the next level for sure. That is definitely adding to how great it is. But I think that just the setting, the score is so good and it's shot beautifully. Just The Shining is a great movie, even though it is quite a bit different than the book. I think the Evil Dead remake is the second best in the franchise, only slightly behind 2, and that is the only Evil Dead that's still scary. I actually completely agree with this. I think Evil Dead is the second best. The Evil Dead 2013 is the second best in the franchise. And again, behind Evil Dead 2, I agree with that 100%. And in terms of it being the last one that's still scary, that's also probably true. I think the original actually is still pretty freaky, though. There's some freaky shit in that movie. It's actually true horror. Evil Dead 2 goes a little bit more comedy and horror. And of course, Army of Darkness, we're kind of full comedy now. But yeah, Evil Dead 2013, it went back to all horror, and man, did they do a great job. I love that movie. I think it's arguably, other than The Thing, which is a stretch to even call it a remake, I think Evil Dead might be one of the best remakes of all time. So, and then of course, in terms of being scary, Evil Dead Rise is still pretty scary too. So that's up there in terms of sticking with the horror and being scary, but I still think Evil Dead 2013 is well above it. Halloween Kills is the second best in the Halloween franchise. I will die on this hill. A lot of Halloween hot takes, apparently. Halloween Kills, I think, is doo-doo. I think it's a very bad movie. I think it's one of the worst written Halloween movies in the entire franchise. But just because it's got good kills and is a fun time to watch, and you get a lot more Allison, which I appreciate, I wouldn't rank it at the bottom. It'd be pretty close still. But saying it's the second best in the franchise, I don't even think it's close. I really don't. I think it's one of the, like I said, one of the worst written in the entire franchise. It's just, there's nothing going on. It's just kills, which it lives up to its name. They knew what they were doing. So yeah, they were like trying to be Terrifier. It was weird. It's like, we're not going to be a slasher anymore. We're not going to have any characters that are likable. We're just going to do kills. We're going to make it turn into a splatter film. But, and on top of that, of course, the way they did Tommy Doyle, they brought all these characters back, you know, Mary and, you know, bringing back Kyle Richards to come back and play Lindsay. And, of course, like I said, Tommy Doyle, like, you have all these characters and then they all just die in the blink of an eye, except for Lindsay, who just vanishes. We see her on the ditch of the hill there in the park, and then she's gone the rest of the movie. It's horrible, honestly. It's a very poorly made film, but it's got some great kills, so we just turn a blind eye to it. If it's one of your favorites, I get it, because you're probably just a huge splatter film fan, and that's why things like Terrifier are probably amazing to you, which is totally fine. I mean, that's a very fun film to watch, just to watch the kills. But as a movie with some like actual story and character arc, it's just not there, and I rank it low for that reason. Okay, that's all the hot takes for now. There's a lot there, but if you enjoyed this, we can do more in the future. Let me know some more of your hot takes. If you didn't, well, then we won't do any more, but I like talking about horror movies and having discussions like this in general, and like I said, it's all for fun. We have preferences for a reason. If your opinion's different than mine, who gives a shit, okay? But that's going to wrap up this video. If you enjoyed, make sure you drop a like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. And of course, as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.